But Xiaolong only tamed a few larvae, yet he could make an experienced old man sweat just because of those seemingly harmless larvae. Again, these are the kinds of animals that instill fear in everyone. But what astonished the old man even more was, Xiaolong not only knew their incubation period, but also understood their reproductive patterns, which excited the old man immensely. He not only declared that he would teach all his martial arts, but he also wanted to marry his stunning daughter to the boy. However, when they moved to the Zhu family in Sichuan, the boy realized that everything was not as easy as it seemed on the surface. No more lengthy explanations. Let's get into the main content. One day, as the rain poured down, a group from the martial arts school appeared out of nowhere. They entered the Taoist temple and asked if the owner was present. I apologize for disturbing a bit before the unending rain in this desolate place. Yet a boy appeared right here. The group was also puzzled when they saw this young teenager. Seeing him blocking the door, the leader of the group understood and stood still outside the Taoist temple. He had a pair of bloodshot eyes, probably around 50, with a serious face scrutinizing. In such a desolate place as a Taoist temple, there are actually people. Then he spoke up. "Young hero, could you allow me to stay for one night to shelter from the rain?" The main character silently stared at the group in front of him, cautious and pondering who these people really were. Even though I am still young, they still perform the ritual of clasping their hands respectfully with formal words. Do they think I am a little Taoist priest overseeing this abandoned temple? But they don't seem to be bad people. After thinking, he clasped his hands respectfully and spoke. "I am just someone who has been staying in this abandoned Taoist temple for a few years. You may rest anywhere you wish. However, that room is where I am currently using, so please do not disturb. I hope you will choose another place to rest." He also understood and clasped his hands in response to the boy thanking him. "Young hero, you are young, yet so polite. I will do so." Then he turned to instruct his disciples. Did everyone hear that? Quickly move, do not. Approach the young hero's room. Find another place to shelter from the rain, understood. After hearing this, they all obediently complied. Yes, master. As the rain grew heavier, the martial arts group quickly hurried off to find a room while the main character stood still observing. The insignia stuck on each person's clothing also implied that they were all from the same clan. I am also a bit curious about what kind of people they are, but there is something more important now. The main character politely bowed his head to their master, then quickly left. He entered his main room, excitement unmistakable on his cute face. "Oh, my love, it's time to eat now." He skipped along as if going to meet his lover, looking at the jars filled in his room. He opened the lid and peered inside with a delighted expression. Inside the jar were insects that looked like crickets. The main character hugged the jar of insects in his hands, pouting. "I almost missed it." Everyone is hungry, right? Then you moved to open the lid of another jar and found a black tiger spider living in Hainan, China. This is a large species of spider that can grow up to 20 centimeters. With its distinctive colors reminiscent of the black tiger, you happily use chopsticks to feed it crickets. Eat a lot, okay? If it weren't for you, I don't know what would happen to my brother. Seeing it devour my food makes me happy too. It was only as small as a fingernail at first, and now it has molted twice and grown this big. My brother is really so happy. Seeing my pet well fed, I continued to approach a storage box beside the main character and opened the box right in front of me, only to discover that it contained a lizard, the king of the realm. Specifically, it was a chameleon, which is also a native species here. This species is characterized by the stripes on its body, and you proudly displayed its metamorphosis that no one knew about, joyfully exclaiming that in my previous life it was very difficult to find and buy you, because there was no source to import them, yet here I just need to go outside to see you everywhere. My brother truly lives for the joy of watching you. After that, I fed it. Suddenly, the chameleon jumped up and bit my hand, causing me to cry out in pain, which led to the beginning of the main character raising these creatures. It is the passion and interest in insects, especially the rare reincarnation that has occurred, because before I was a streamer in modern times, originally with the glory of a streamer. Millions of followers for a streamer specializing in fierce creatures with the creature in front of me. It's not too hard to say the main topic is insects and venomous animals. But the problem he faced when preparing to post new content was, the live broadcast was held to celebrate reaching 1 million followers, and the content of that broadcast was the 10 most dangerous venomous snakes in the world. The viewers of that live broadcast kept asking him where the black mamba was. Why can't we see it? It must not be from Africa. Fierce Faber has tricked us. Hurry up and show us the snake. Let us bite it just once. Just once. Let us bite it just once. Let us bite it just once. Is that not allowed? Immediately after, a user with the nickname Bludgy Fly back home was blocked, and someone curiously asked if the black mamba would die if it hit the head. Faber knew very well that among them, this one is famous for being the most dangerous due to its aggressive nature. After that, the idea of going all the way to Africa to find the black mamba became a disaster. Faber sat on the chair sighing with the fans, saying there was nothing at all. Really, there is no black mamba. It's not a stray cat on the corner of the market. After saying that, he stood up and told everyone that he would take a break for a while and then continue searching. The viewers, unable to wait for the results, eagerly responded, "You just take a break. We will be here playing. Really wait, hurry up and continue searching." Faber, feeling thirsty, approached the cabinet to find a bottle to quench his thirst, complaining that he was exhausted. "Why can't I see it appearing?" Meanwhile, a snake was coiling on top of the refrigerator, and I was bitten in the blink of an eye when I felt the pain from the snake's ambush. Faber was startled and panicked, shouting loudly. The viewers had mixed reactions. Some were amused, while others worriedly asked if he was bitten. The Faber snake suddenly startled and yelled loudly, causing the audience to react. Some were amused, while others worriedly asked if it had been bitten. In Africa, what number should I call instead of 119, given the strong toxin of the snake? Faber felt dizzy and collapsed on the floor of his rented room, simultaneously admitting that he had died, and immediately returned to reality at that moment. Still preoccupied with feeding his lizard, the main character thought to himself that he couldn't find it anywhere yet. It was hiding on top of the refrigerator. The young host unexpectedly appeared at his door without any prior notice, and the next moment he asked if the young hero was inside. Fearing his strange hobby would be discovered, he hurriedly placed the lizard in the drawer and quickly closed it, then went out to talk to him. He stammered and asked what was going on. With his friendly appearance, he quickly replied that they were very grateful for the rain and asked if the young hero would like to have dinner with them. He then added that they had just hunted a deer, and upon hearing this, his eyes lit up and he stuttered, asking, "Deer? What deer?" Hearing about the meat, his eyes began to well up with tears of happiness, thinking about the times he had skinned and roasted his pet to survive. "I'm sorry, I've only been eating snakes and lizards all this time." He jumped up in joy and exclaimed loudly that he would be very grateful if he could share, and the man happily turned around to guide him through the rain. Laughing heartily, he replied, "Then let's go together." After a while, the rain finally stopped, and the bright moon stretched itself through the dark clouds. At this moment, all of them were gathered around the campfire, with a large piece of deer meat placed on it. Seeing the deliciousness of the meat in front of him, he could no longer hold back. His eyes widened, and saliva began to flow uncontrollably as he showed his desire. He said nothing. Silently observing everything, he finally told him that the meat would need a little more time to cook, and while waiting, could he ask a few questions. Hearing this, he blushed with embarrassment for losing face in front of so many people, thinking that he had been so distracted that he had lost his mind. The main character quickly responded politely, "Please, senior, feel free to ask." A bit shy, he then asked if he lived alone in the mountains of Hainan. "How old are you?" After a moment of thought, his answer must have surprised him. He said he was about 10 to 45 years old. The man curiously asked if that was about right. It's not good to reveal your entire identity to someone you just met, so he thought he should just say something vague. After thinking, the main character replied that since the injury to his head when he was little, he couldn't remember much of his past. This touching story must have made him exclaim, "What an unfortunate story." He curiously asked if he had lived alone here all this time. The main character quickly replied, "Yes, since I have no skills, I live here catching snakes, skinning them, and selling them to make a living." His face began to swell and turn red as he responded, "A young hero like you dares to catch snakes." Since he had rich experience with poisonous species in his past life, it was quite easy for him. He bowed his head and replied, "I'm used to it, so it's fine." While the two were chatting, an old man with white hair came with a portion of meat to tell him that he had brought his cooked portion first. "Take this first." Hearing this, his eyes became brighter than car headlights. He clasped his hands together with a joyful expression, and the old man happily looked at him with the steaming piece of meat in hand, saying that I see the young hero seems very hungry, that's why I said so. He politely quickly replied, "Thank you, senior." Holding the piece of meat in his hand, he excitedly told the old man that it had been a long time since he had eaten meat. As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately took a bite, stuffing his mouth full. The more he chewed, the more he felt delighted, thinking that this was indeed happiness. Seeing him eat so eagerly with the hot piece of meat, the old man happily joked that the young hero was eating very well. A moment later, the man spoke again. "Young hero, while eating, listen to what I say." His previously gentle expression suddenly became tense as he said that they were looking for something. "Did you see anything strange around here?" he curiously asked. "Back, what do you mean by strange?" Seeing the confusion on his face from his words, the old man had no choice but to think again, wondering if he should say this. From the other side, the old man unexpectedly spoke up. "The young hero has granted me a small favor. Can I tell him about it?" He continued to say that if by chance he unknowingly encountered a disaster, it would be dangerous. Besides, since he lives alone, he probably wouldn't tell anyone. Listening to what the elders say, one cannot be wrong. He also agreed, replying that indeed what the father said was very correct. After finishing, he said they were looking for a green-spotted centipede. He was surprised and curiously asked back, "A green-spotted centipede?" In his mind, he silently wondered if the centipede was a type of millipede. He then briefly described its appearance, saying that it was called the green-spotted centipede. Its size was quite large, so perhaps he had seen it before. He was amazed when he heard about its size, wondering how big is it. Then he quickly became curious and eagerly asked back if it's big. How big is it? Based on what was recorded, he thought, and then replied that if it was an adult, the next words he spoke made him panic, his face turning pale and mouth agape upon hearing. He simply replied, "Perhaps it is large enough to easily swallow the young hero." Hearing its abstract size, he thought it was just a return to a few hundred years ago. His face began to change color silently, thinking who would have thought there would be a centipede that big? Was this originally a different world? The old man beside him could not blame him, saying that this young hero seemed to be terrified already. The old man with silver hair calmly stroked his beard, saying not to worry because they came here to catch it. Hearing that someone wanted to catch it, he curiously asked back, "Are you planning to catch it to keep?" Hearing such a naive question, both the old man and he involuntarily asked back, "Keep it." After saying that, the old man curiously stroked his beard and laughed heartily, saying loudly, keeping a green-spotted centipede. "That sounds interesting." The person beside him tried to suppress a laugh and replied, "The young hero is really interesting." The old man quickly expressed the main intention of today's trip. How could they keep that? They intended to use it to brew medicine. Hearing that, his expression went from excited to suddenly indifferent as he asked back what he clearly showed his discomfort, thinking that he thought they were business partners, but it turned out they were drug dealers. After thinking that, he asked, "Do you really want to do that?" The old man's face became serious upon hearing that seemingly simple question. He clenched his hands and said it could be so. "My granddaughter is currently bedridden due to a severe illness. It turns out that the internal elixir of the enro family is the last resort to help my granddaughter." The old man said that only the internal elixir of the enro family could save her. "Therefore, I am trying to find it." The young man became surprised and replied, "If it is your granddaughter, then..." To put it simply, the internal elixir is a crystalline substance formed from the accumulation of vital energy within the bodies of animals, becoming a mystical life essence. The man sitting next to him continued, "That is my daughter." The young man quickly grasped the situation, raised his hand to stroke his chin, and said that the child is on the brink of death, so they want to try every possible way. Although centipedes are not medicine, a parent's heart cannot be any different. Looking at the figure of the father who loves his child so much that he crosses mountains and rivers to find that seemingly non-existent creature, he felt a bit of empathy and thought, "Poor purebred centipede, but since it has been invited to be eaten, I will help." After thinking, he then spoke about that enro family centipede, and it seemed he had a clue. He immediately changed his expression and quickly asked if the young man had ever seen it. The young man replied, "No, I have never seen it," he said after hearing those words. He returned as if he had lost his soul, indifferently responding that he understood. Just a moment later, he showed a dangerous expression and continued, however, even though I do not know what the Ngo family internal elixir is. Hearing this, there was a glimmer of hope. He turned in confusion to look at the young man and saw that he seemed very confident as he opened his eyes wide and smiled slightly. I can guess where it is based on my experience from my previous life. Although I died after being bitten by a snake with the experience I could accumulate, I can confidently say that I know more about toxins than anyone else. He informed that among approximately 8,700,000 living species, about 20,000 species are known to be poisonous. I have stored all their knowledge in my head, one species at a time, and centipedes are no exception among them. With my knowledge, as for the poison, it lies firmly in the palm of my hand. Ngui Tulong held the book and focused all his spirit as each page continuously flipped, emitting a magical light. After a while, he closed the book and happily opened his eyes, saying he found it. Tulong excitedly winked and said, "So, if it is a large centipede, I think I know where it is." Dongsun asked in astonishment, what really Dongquan also chimed in. If so, where could it be? The young man pondered, then looked at the two, wondering if they had searched any areas, and at what time. "Can you tell me?" Although he did not know why Tulong asked that. Dongsun also replied, "We searched in the north and east around here, mainly searching during the day. In the north, we mainly searched along the riverbank." He rubbed his chin and muttered, "I see." In his heart, he thought there was indeed a reason why you could not find it. The two were stunned when they heard Tulong say that, so of course it could not be discovered. Dongquan blurted out, "What? Of course, why not?" The old man hurriedly asked, "Can you tell me the reason?" He smiled smugly, "Sure. About the centipede, it belongs to the arthropod subphylum Myriapoda. They have a wide range of activity and are ectothermic animals, so they need a hiding place to maintain stable temperature and humidity. Interestingly, unlike most insect species that have waterproof membranes, they have weak waterproof membranes with spiracles on the surface of their exoskeleton, so they actually do not prefer places with too much water. Although they need a high humidity environment, they do not like areas with a lot of water. Conversely, without humidity, they cannot survive for long. This is a unique characteristic of the centipede sitting on the porch. Xiaolong continues to provide information, so the giant Scolopendra, with its large body, is unlikely to inhabit dense forests or riverbanks, which makes the soldiers feel a headache. I can't believe it. So the place where the centipede prefers is not the rotten wood crevices you mention that some small centipedes can be found in such places. Surely you mean a large centipede, right? But Xiaolong still rambles on that if its body is large, then fallen trees in the forest or rocks by the river would not be suitable places, because there would be nowhere for it to hide. After hearing this, Duongson and Duongquan looked at each other and nodded slightly. Sitting beside him, he worriedly said that if they found it in the place he pointed out, they would definitely reward him. He smiled smugly, pointing to the mountain in front of him. Xiaolong confirmed the west direction and advised them to try looking at the rocky mountain to the west, as the centipedes usually rest under the stones during the day. The stones were warmed and pointed out at night when the moonlight illuminated the steep cliffs. Everyone divided up to search at the mountain peak. Duong Sun stood firm and observed. He frowned, and at that moment someone ran over to call the master, wondering if the words of the young hero were wrong. He pondered, then jumped to the ground. Duong Sun ordered to rest here today. Go fire the signal arrow to call the search teams to gather. The soldiers received the order. Yes, sir. The signal arrow was shot up, shining brightly in the sky. Everyone rested while complaining, "Oh my God, I'm so tired." I hope the words of the young hero will be true. They took turns discussing why this damn centipede hasn't appeared yet. It really is true that young hero seems quite smart. Suddenly, they heard a commotion from Duong San, seeing him gritting his teeth and trembling, saying, "Duong Nganyi, the girl is considered the most talented prodigy in the history of the Duong clan. Could it be that heaven has truly abandoned me?" At that moment, there was a shout announcing that the Supreme Master had returned. Everyone simultaneously greeted, "You have returned." Duong Quan approached Duong Sun and inquired about the situation. "Did you not find anything today?" He replied, "Yes, sir." Then asked back, "Father, did you not find anything either?" Duong Quan coughed lightly. "All right, but the situation is not very promising. Duong Nganyi can only hold on for a maximum of 3 more months. I wonder if we can find anything within the next 10 days. The two fell silent, sharing the same concern. He suggested to his father, how about we try searching to the south tomorrow? Because no traces have been discovered yet. He sighed and agreed. All right. Suddenly, Duong Quen asked loudly in surprise, Nothing at all. Then unexpectedly, he slapped his forehead and laughed loudly. That's right. So that's why I didn't realize that. That's right, it's right here. Seeing the glimmer of hope, Duong Sun asked if he had just discovered something. Isn't that right, father? But contrary to expectations, Duong Quan replied, I don't see any traces or feelings at all. He asked back in confusion, Is that correct? The old man confirmed, Because there is nothing at all. Then added, That's why I feel it is here. Looking around, Duong Quan spoke, Have you found any traces in this rocky mountain over the past 3 days? Duong Sun replied, No, we haven't found any traces. He stroked his chin and said, No traces of wild animal droppings or territorial signs have been found. Just as he finished speaking, he was startled and exclaimed, Could it be Duong Sun had realized the issue? The old man excitedly replied, Exactly. How could it be that in this vast rocky mountain there are no traces of animals? He clenched his fist and murmured, This is its territory. Duong Quan happily responded, That's right. So all the animals around must have fled or become prey for the Ngo Kong. The old man patted Duong Sun on the shoulder and reassured him, The Thenban Ngo Kong is definitely here. Now we can rescue Nga Nyi. He seemed to find the light biting his lip and saying, Finally. Before he could finish, the ground shook violently and everyone panicked, shouting, What is this? Some shouted, This. Finally, due to fear, someone stepped into the fire without realizing it, and at the spot where the fire was blazing, a loud explosion occurred, shaking the sky. Duong Quan and Duong Sun were stunned, shouting, What is that? A sharp claw appeared, striking down hard on the ground. The soldiers, terrified, stammered, That. Rocks and dirt were falling down on them. The old man turned pale and shouted, That is... Before their eyes, a huge creature with many legs and a head gradually revealed itself. A giant centipede appeared, along with the Thanban Ngo Kong. Inside the city, hearing the panicked sounds, Tu Long lazily exclaimed, What's going on? He lay sprawled out, wondering how big that centipede was to cause such a panic. They said they were just going to look for it. And yet it turned the whole mountain upside down. Tu Long smirked. Is it big enough to swallow me whole? I'm really excited. I'm so curious. The nighttime scene in the mountains showed everyone surrounding a centipede corpse that had been defeated. Duong Quan opened a box and said, This is the inner Dan of the Thanban Ngo Kong. Everyone around was sobbing while the old man covered his emotions with his hand and coughed, saying, Now we can rescue Nga Nyi. Duong Sun, his body battered, approached and said, Father, please lead the uninjured warriors to Sichuan first. Duong Quan wondered, What do you mean by that? He looked into the distance and replied, There are debts to repay, and if there is a grudge, it must be avenged. Grudges are etched in blood, and kindness is carved in stone. Duong Sun asked, Isn't there still work to be done here? The old man patted his head, remembering, I almost made a big mistake thinking about Nga Nyi. Duong Quan put away the box containing the inner Dan and said, That's right, we should entertain the young hero. That young man is like a distinguished guest. If there is something that the young hero desires, we should fulfill it. He replied, Yes, let the injured warriors stay in the village to recuperate. During that time, let me meet the young hero. Duong Sun added, Perhaps the young hero is also eager to know our news. During that time, let us meet the young hero Dong Sun. It seems that the young hero is also eager to hear our news. Little Long, with a frowning face, crawled around as several strange creatures surrounded him. Despite them clinging to him, he wondered what he should do about this. Just after one night, I had become the father of the little Ngo clan in some room. Little Long mumbled as he got home, cleaned the egg, and placed it right beside his pillow. When he woke up in the morning, he suddenly saw the little ones crawling on him and said that they had all hatched. Looking at them round and with ears like rabbits, so adorable, Little Long restrained his emotions and mumbled that he had anticipated this, but did not expect them to hatch so quickly. He glanced at one little darling sleeping on his cheek, and suddenly that little one slipped and fell. He panicked and caught it, saying, Hey, you little ones, move away a bit, will you? Little Long mumbled that the problem was not knowing if these little ones saw him as their mother or not, as one little one kept biting his shirt, saying they were clinging to him and wouldn't leave an inch. The night before in some canyon. Is this type of divine insect big enough to swallow me whole? If I can't endure this, then I am no longer a fierce Faber. At the secret hideout of the little Ngo clan that I found, the closer I got to the cave, the more terrifying it became. He kicked something and shouted, "What the hell is this? What kind of beetle is as big as a human's fist?" The torch in Little Long's hand fell as he knelt on the ground panting. Little Long wiped the sweat from his brow and said, thankfully looking into his bag, "Anyway, there are still 3 safe eggs." Little Long rubbed his head and mumbled, "Thank goodness the rain has stopped. I almost couldn't save any." Suddenly, he noticed something. Little Long stood up and said it was not the time to hesitate anymore. He had to hurry back to clean the eggs. He tightly secured the egg bag at his waist and said, "All right." With an excited face, Little Long shouted, "My little Ngo clan, wait a moment. I will clean you up right away." And then, after the eggs had hatched, he sat down lamenting that although he had not seen the little Ngo clan alive yet, saving these eggs was already a stroke of luck. The adorable little ones kept clinging to Little Long, feeling a bit constrained. Little Long said, "Hey, you guys! Aren't you going to leave me?" The little ones mischievously crawled down his back, mumbling that even knowing that, until your second shedding, you wouldn't need to eat, so I wouldn't have to worry about food. But clinging to me like this is really awkward. Little Long suddenly realized and said, "If I go into the water, maybe you will automatically leave me," with a mischievous smile. His face showed a bad intention, making the little Ngo clan panic. He said, "Then I must go take a bath." Early in the morning, Dung Sun, with his wounds bandaged, walked to a certain place. He arrived at a room and called out loudly, "Is there a young hero in there?" Standing outside the door, he called out, "Young hero." Dung Sun saw that there was no movement in the room, so he reached for the door and pushed it open, saying, "Young hero, I'm coming in." Looking around and seeing no one, Dung Sun said, "Herbs jars and even medicinal boxes." He looked at those herbs and wondered if the young hero was skilled in medicine. Looking around and seeing no one, Dung Sun remarked on the herbs jars and even the medicine box, wondering if this young hero was well versed in medicine. Dung Sun sighed and muttered that one shouldn't casually enter an empty room like this. "Isn't that rude?" He turned away and said he would come back later. Suddenly, Dung Sun heard strange cries. He curiously turned back and muttered about what this sound was. Behind Dung Sun were large jars. He quietly walked over and opened one, his face filled with astonishment as he exclaimed, "What is this?" Dung Sun saw a spider holding something white in its mouth and muttered, "Chai master." He looked over at the medicine cabinet and said, "No way." Dung Sun then went over and opened a compartment to see a striped orange creature muttering, "What a surprise." He couldn't help but be astonished by what he had just seen. Inside this jar were several brown beetles, while the other basin contained strange eggs. In this box were dried snakes. Dung Sun was so shocked, he was frozen, muttering, "It's like I'm stepping into a place full of poisonous creatures." Terrible, it's hard to believe. In Dung Sun's mind, he thought, could it be that he is raising these poisonous creatures and breeding them? Even Dung, known for his expertise in poisons and poisonous creatures, only managed to manage and extract toxins, nothing more. How could one figure out how to obtain eggs to breed them like this? He closed the door and stepped out of the room, muttering, "Thanks to a small chance, I have saved the life of my beloved daughter." Dung Sun clenched his fist and said, "So the real chance was this young hero here." Suddenly, he heard a voice calling from behind, "Old senior." He replied, "Young hero." But Xiaolong hurriedly ran over and asked, "What happened to your arm? Are you hurt anywhere else?" Dung Sun placed his hand on the boy's shoulder and replied, "It's nothing serious. Rather, what I need to say is..." Suddenly, he felt something and muttered, "What is this?" Behind the boy appeared an evil aura. The door was broken and a shadow slowly emerged. A monster appeared full of murderous intent. Its terrifying face grinned, revealing sharp teeth. Dung Sun quickly pushed Xiaolong aside and shouted, "Young hero, get out of here!" The boy didn't understand what was happening and told the senior he is already in a stance ready to attack. Vun Tung flicked a finger and wherever he passed was destroyed, heading straight for Dung Sun. He concentrated his strength in his arm and struck hard at him, blocking an attack from Vantung, causing him to be severely injured, spitting blood, and he exploded everything. Duong Sun fell to the ground, wiping the blood from his mouth, muttering, "A master on par with my father." Duong Sun stammered, "Young hero, run." Just as he finished speaking, Xiaolong was grabbed by the neck and lifted up, gasping for breath, calling out, "Senior!" Vantung laughed loudly, saying, "I heard that the scoundrels from Duong have entered Hainam. So I came to check, but the snake of the poison god was injured and alone like this." Duong Sun struggled to stand up, coughed a few times, and asked, "Senior, who are you? Why are you bullying that young hero?" Vantung laughed loudly and replied, "You will find out something. If you look at this face in my red hands, your father made me like this. Blood Hand Lasat Thak Vantung is me." He recalled his previous appearance, muttering, "Tak Vantung, I heard he was poisoned in the head and fell off a cliff. By the coast, it seems he survived." Duong Sun saw Xiaolong struggling in Vantung's grasp and hurriedly shouted, "That young hero has nothing to do with us. Let him go if you say that I will trade my life for that kid." He held the boy by the neck, smugly saying, "I don't like anyone who has touched me. Even a little must die, you villain with high martial skills harming the world." Duong Sun gritted his teeth in anger, muttering that villain's name. "Finally, it seems you have no intention of releasing the young hero during this time." Xiaolong was being choked to the point of almost not being able to bear it anymore. Van Tuong laughed loudly, saying, "Die." You uttered each word with difficulty. "Please save me," the look of almost leaving that Xiaolong had made. Bright eyes shone in the darkness. The little larvae of the Wugong rushed out from his body, clinging to his arm, biting into Van Tuong. He panicked. Aunt Wugong Van Tuong quickly released Xiaolong, saying, "I will catch the Wugong screaming. After all, the Wugong seems to pose a danger to me." The larvae bombarded Van Tuong with poison, causing him to spit blood. Van Tuong collapsed, cursing, "Damn it." After that, he lay motionless at your feet. Xiaolong, terrified, muttered, "Oh my God, he is dead." You kicked him with your foot, saying, "Hey, are you still alive?" Duong Sun was astonished, mouth agape, then he laughed as if he had found gold, muttering, "Isn't this young hero a guest?" Xiaolong switched to a stick, poking at Van Tuong, saying he must become a member of the Duong family at the Taoist temple a few days after the fall of Van Duong. A sigh of relief echoed in the room where Xiaolong was taking care of the sickly Duong Sun in bed. He expressed his gratitude, young hero. Xiaolong, hearing him speak, immediately said, "We can't delay any longer. If the senior tells me where you are, I will go check it out." After finishing his words, you awkwardly turned away, scratching your chin, looking thoughtful. "It's not good to leave the senior here alone, but I also can't call a doctor." Duong Sun heard this and quickly said, "I'm fine, don't worry. Just rest for a few days and I will be okay." You were astonished, sighing inwardly, "This old man has shed so much blood already." Still speaking calmly like that. You remembered that moment. He was coughing up a lot of blood while reassuring me I'm fine. And you immediately retorted, "Please don't say that. Your condition is very critical now." Duong Sun, panting, weakly replied, "I'm fine." He was afraid you would continue to worry about him and added, "I am a person of the martial world." Xiaolong was extremely surprised by this. You wondered martial world heroes. You were curious and asked, "Do you mean martial artists who can fly and use techniques?" He smiled kindly and replied, "Not everyone can do that, but it can be considered correct." You thought in amazement, "Truly wonderful indeed. This world has something different. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to have a centipede the size of a house." Duong Sun interrupted your thoughts. "After all, you are a young hero. I owe you my life. It is indeed a great grace to save me, though it may be a bit rude. Let me officially introduce myself." He introduced himself. "I am Duong Tietson from the Duong family in Sichuan." You also introduced yourself. "I am Nui Tiolong." He closed his eyes and praised Tiolong means little dragon, nice name. Yes, he looked at you and then asked, "Moreover, I have many things I want to ask. May I?" You politely replied, "Yes, please ask." He expressed his curiosity about the poisonous creature with the dark aura, which is the Wugong. "Is that right?" You looked down at the larvae crawling on your body and gently poked it, then confirmed, "Yes, that is indeed the Wugong. That is the larva of the Thunban Wugong." Duong Sun was so surprised that he sat up and exclaimed, "You mean you have tamed the larvae of the Thanban Gogong?" You were startled by him and shouted, "Senior, please lie down." He didn't care about your advice and continued, "Where did you get it? How could you tame it?" You answered vaguely while waiting, and he unexpectedly interrupted you. Could it be that these poisonous insects are also raised by you? You hesitated to continue speaking. "Ah," you said, feeling a bit shy. "Perhaps the story will be a bit long. Do you want to hear it?" He covered his mouth and cleared his throat. "It's fine, go ahead and speak." You began to tell, "Then I will start from the story of the Than Ban Go Gong. It goes like this. The night outside the Taoist temple was quiet and still, as if listening to the story that Xiaolong was telling. After hearing the whole story, Duong Sun asked in astonishment, "Wait, you mean you took the eggs and raised them yourself?" You replied, "Yes, that's right. I can estimate when the eggs will hatch." He was sweating, thinking, "Who could know when the eggs will hatch? How is that possible?" You spoke up, "Please wait a moment." As soon as the senior finished speaking, Xiaolong opened the drawer, took out the creatures from inside, and suggested, "Do you want to see this?" You brought one out and introduced, "This is a common lizard from the cave. It has yellow stripes on its body and white stripes on its tail." You brought out another one and described, "And here is another." The ones with large white stripes on their tails were chosen to mate, and the results show these two characteristic colors. Duong Sun stared in shock at the creatures in front of him and exclaimed, "Could it be?" He shouted, "You mean you created these colors?" You excitedly confirmed, "That's right. Isn't it beautiful?" He swallowed hard, questioning, "So if only the ones with strong poison mate, could they produce an even more poisonous species? You let out a soft sound of confusion at his words. Your mind was spinning, pondering. In theory, it could be. After thinking, you said, "If we know which one's poison is stronger, then of course it could be." You hesitated, "But that's difficult." He suddenly raised his voice. "What is that possible?" startling you. He placed his hand on your shoulder and seriously suggested, "You should join our clan." You were surprised and let out a sound. But he shouted, "If you join our Tao sect, all the martial arts will be taught without any regrets, along with rare herbs. Lin Tao and any type of poison you want will be at your fingertips." He passionately persuaded, "If it were you, perhaps you could catch or raise one of the 10 great poisonous insects of Zhongyuan, which is renowned in the martial world." If this wasn't enough to sway you, Duong Sun used a special technique not to show off, but to mention one of the 3 treasures of Zhongyuan. "My daughter Xiaolong." You hurriedly interrupted, "Wait, what did you just say?" He was also surprised and let out a sound, then, as if realizing the truth, he laughed heartily. "You're still young, but you are a man, so that's how it is. My daughter is one of the 3 treasures of Zhongyuan." You saw that he misunderstood and shouted, "No, not like that." You imagined the 10 great poisonous insects he mentioned and clenched your fists, asking loudly, "Are the 10 great poisonous insects of Zhongyuan as formidable as the Thanban Gogong?" He confidently affirmed, "Yes, of course, the Thanban Gogong is also very powerful, but it is still a lower-level poison and cannot be compared." He imagined the 10 great locusts that the old man mentioned, tightening his grip and asking loudly if the 10 great locusts of Central Plains were as formidable as the green-striped locusts. The old man confidently affirmed that yes, indeed they were. He smirked, pleased, saying that while the green-striped locusts were also very dangerous, they were still a lower-level poisonous species and could not be compared. With 10 deadly creatures from the Central Plains, he described one as big as a house. To a golden bug that sparkled like gold, he was astonished and kept associating it with his words. But he said that no matter what you think, reality will far exceed that. Duong Sun sighed softly indeed. It is a strange matter. He observed the bright, excited face of Xiaolong and the 2 larvae crawling in his clothes, then concluded with a sentence that it seems I have successfully convinced him. 2 days later at the Taoist temple, Duong Sun's disciples heard the news and shouted loudly, saying that the blood hand demon of Van Duong had appeared. Duong Sun said that he almost got into big trouble. Unexpectedly, he has been hiding to train martial arts and has now reached a level nearly equal to that of his father, causing the group of disciples to fearfully stammer. One disciple hesitated, unable to form a sentence. Then a disciple suddenly thought of something surprising and spoke up. "Wait! Did the master kill him already? Has he reached the realm of 10,000 poisons?" One disciple immediately said, "Congratulations," and the others hurriedly chimed in, Oh, congratulations, master. He exhaled and denied, that's not true. He continued, the one who killed him is not me. But this young hero here. The disciple exclaimed in surprise, is it this young hero? Saying that he turned to grasp Xiaolong's hand and shouted to confirm, it is the young hero, right? The group of disciples hurriedly said thank you. Young hero, for saving our master, the head of the Duong family in Sichuan. Is it true that you are an immortal who never ages? He was surprised by their words and asked back, what do you mean never ages? Duong's son calmly interrupted them. The young hero seems to have a misunderstanding. Can you show me directly? He thought for a moment and then agreed. Come out here, little ones. The disciples stared wide-eyed at the things moving, wanting to peek out from his clothes. The tiny larvae were chirping, and looking around, the disciple clearly saw the larvae. He exclaimed in astonishment, oh, isn't that the wugong? It's the larvae of the green-striped wugong. These are the ones that defeated Van Duong. One disciple looked at this scene. Suddenly shouted with a hint of fear, are their poisons safe? The other one also shouted but couldn't hide his admiration. You have tamed the green-striped wugong, a young hero with such talent. Duong's son spoke slowly. Therefore, I have decided to accept the young hero into our family. The young hero said he wanted to think a bit more. The disciple excitedly shouted, oh, young hero! This is truly a good opportunity, Duong's son said afterward. His voice attracted the group of people who were continuously excited over there. He tightened his grip and seriously said, perhaps we should stand up now. It seems we should not delay any longer. Xiaolong asked Old Senior, do you want to find anything else? He only pondered and did not answer. Then he seriously spoke, the blood hand. Demon of Van Duong, the martial arts he practiced, is the blood hand poison palm. This is a terrifying, evil technique. It uses blood and marrow to elevate its realm, he thought in panic. What kind of crazy evil technique is this? He resolutely made the decision that if he left behind a manual or has a successor, it must be dealt with. We cannot allow such a cruel evil technique to appear again in the martial world. He tightened his grip and asked if someone is captured. Shouldn't we help them? The group of disciples agreed. Of course, then the host turned to the young hero and asked, can you lend me a hand? After all, you are familiar with the terrain of the two southern islands. Little Long fell silent, deep in thought, as the larvae crawled closer to him, calling out, as he closed his eyes to ponder. Perhaps becoming a member of the path also meant a lifelong commitment. Normally, when doing an internship, it's to observe the company atmosphere and also to assess the boss's character, right? The boy happily agreed. I understand now. When you recover your health, I will support you with all my might, the disciple exclaimed, and the group praised the young hero. You are right about that. He smiled brightly. Of course, we must help with the rescue. Outwardly modest, but inwardly he thought, during this trip, I must thoroughly understand what Sichuan truly is like. He smugly added, in the hearts of talented people, they often reverse interview, and 3 days had passed since the old master had recovered his body. Their group, including Tang, Shan, Wei, Xiaolong, and the disciples, stopped by the nearby abandoned village to find the hiding place of the Blood Hand Demon at Van Duong Falls. They inquired if anyone had gone missing. The villagers they asked seemed a bit worried and said, are you talking about the missing person? The old man recalled and said that in the past year there had been 1 or 2 people missing in the forest, but there were no regular cases of disappearance. Tang Shan stroked his beard in thought as the group clasped their hands in gratitude. Tang Shan spoke on behalf of the group, thanking the old man for his words, and the village chief also clasped his hands warmly in response. It's nothing. You are welcome to the famous place of Sichuan. It is truly an honor for me, he said. I take my leave, the village chief said as he watched them go, wishing them safe travels. Unfortunately, their group did not gather any more information. They continued on their journey, and Little Long wondered why this village was no different. Tang Shan pondered he had something on his mind, then replied, looking at what he discovered, we revealed ourselves. I thought he would be around here. Searching is indeed not easy. You also think there is something strange. How could there be no traces left at all? Little Long recalled when Van Duong Falls attacked him and wondered what he had said. Then, as if thinking of something, he exclaimed, Senior, do you remember what he said when he appeared? Tang Shan turned to answer, I don't remember much. What about you? He recalled that moment thinking, I was hit and then flew away. He continued, yes, so. He then recalled that moment and thought, at that time he had been hit and had flown away. He continued, yes, so, that is why. You analyzed that he said the Duong family had entered Hainan Island, right? So you suspect that someone knows about the Duong family entering Hainan Island and has reported to Thak Van Duong, right? He replied, perhaps so. Tu Lung cheerfully presented his solution. Then it's simple. We just need to verify the route the Duong family took on Hainan Island. Based on his appearance, right? If we use a portrait description to inquire, we will find them. You and the group of disciples looked at him in disbelief, while the disciple from Duong Sun suddenly exclaimed, I hadn't thought of that. It's truly excellent if Blood Hand Losat has said so. Surely he must have heard the news from someone. He must have seen us while you were feeling a bit embarrassed from the praise, he decided. Then it's easy. Let's move immediately. They moved to a village, but this place was shrouded in a heavy, gloomy atmosphere. The group gradually entered the village, and the disciple spoke up the head of the family, according to what was heard at the port on Hainan Island. It must be that village Duong Sun assessed. It seems to be the village where the women live. Yes, he ordered. Let's go check it out. According to the young hero, perhaps the women here will not be too hostile towards us. The group of disciples replied in unison, yes, head of the family. In the village, the people were extremely dejected. Many looked stunned. Some were even lying in front of their houses. There was a villager quietly sitting and working. They called out, is anyone here? This attracted the attention of the villagers. When the villagers turned to look, they saw their group had entered the village. The villagers asked, what brings the Han people to the village of women? You were a bit surprised to see the village chief leading a little girl along with 2 boys from the village. Duong Sun and the group of disciples clasped their hands in greeting. He said, I am the head of the Duong family in Sichuan. My name is Duong Triet Sun. The reason we came here is... While everyone was talking, Tu Long quietly observed the surroundings. He silently assessed that this village was truly lacking in vitality. The children also seemed to have no energy. He suddenly thought of something and pondered, wait a minute. He questioned in his heart, what is the condition of these people? He looked around at the villagers, all looking dejected. He thought, could it be that they have all been drugged? The village chief said about the disappearances, I don't know anything at all. His expression changed. Then he spoke, go back. Duong Sun still tried to communicate, but it seemed there were fewer people in the house. The old man shouted, this is not something you should be concerned about. Go back. Both Duong Sun and Tu Long were extremely surprised by that attitude. Duong Sun turned to whisper, young hero. Clearly, I've heard that the people here are very friendly to the Han people, but I don't understand anything. He replied, oh. Then the child that the village chief is holding fell down. The old village chief panicked and shouted, Mama, the child has fallen right. The old man was so panicked that he burst into tears. Oh my God, Mama, no, my only remaining relative is you. The old man painfully said, how could even my child suffer from these terrible diseases? Duong Sun knelt down on one knee in front of the old man and suggested, Dear elder, I know a bit of medicine. Can I help? The old man asked back, medicine from Trung Nguyen. He replied, yes, although I am not a doctor. I have some knowledge of medicine. May I take a look at the child's condition? The old man hurriedly agreed, relying on you for this. He replied, yes, although I am not a physician. I have some knowledge of medicine. So may I take a look at the child's condition? The old man hurriedly agreed, relying on you. The old man said that the village chief began to tell that for some time now a strange disease had appeared in the village, causing the children to die one by one. The adults also fell ill and weakened. Duong Sun placed his hand on the old man's shoulder to comfort him, saying, let me take a look at him. The old man then gasped, thank you very much. The old man told them, please hurry inside, then shouted to the villagers, what are you waiting for? Quickly bring the doctor and the group inside. The crowd hurriedly ran inside. Little Long ran while asking, Senior disciple, do you also know medicine? He replied, ah, yes. He explained, the martial arts of our Duong family are related to handling poisons well, so we are also quite knowledgeable about medicine. Moreover, martial arts begin with understanding the body. So a bit of knowledge about medicine is necessary. You suddenly thought it was just a group of assassins specializing in poison, but if you joined the Duong family in Sichuan, learning martial arts would be worthwhile. Learning medicine wouldn't be bad either, the disciple said somewhat fiercely. Of course, sometimes you catch bad guys and inject them with poison to see the reaction. This time you were startled and wondered, experiments on human bodies. You associated Duongsun and the group of disciples with cruel and ruthless people and thought to yourself, indeed, they are very frightening. The sky remained gloomy with the first rays of sunlight shining down on a house. Matron was lying still, but his whole body was emitting a green aura, feeling uncomfortable with tightly shut eyes. Duongsun briefly explained to the village chief, "First, I have transmitted my internal energy into him." "To stop the breathing," the old man replied. "Oh, thank you, sir." The old man patted Ma Tran's head and sadly said, "This is my only remaining granddaughter. Please help her." Duongsun said, "By the way, I noticed the pulse is unstable. That's quite strange. Has the child's heart been weak since birth?" The old man replied, "It's just that her condition started to worsen 6 months ago. Not just my granddaughter. Many others have also begun to fall ill and weaken," the old man recounted. "We call it a strange disease. Earlier, I told you to return immediately from the gate for this very reason." Little Long understood and exclaimed, "So that's it." Duongsun requested, "Elder, first I will prescribe a good medicine for the heart. Please gather everyone in the village for me to try the medicine and see how it works." The old man was moved to tears, saying, "Thank you, sir." The old man thanked him again. "I am very grateful." Little Long quietly observed Duongsun, who was smiling kindly as night fell. The disciple softly called out, "Master, you have worked hard examining the patients." Duongsun replied, "Thank you." He then asked about the condition of the patients. The old man pondered and said, "That is indeed very strange." He analyzed the symptoms of weakness and swelling in the eyes, unstable pulse, accompanied by a mild fever. The symptoms were all different, but those who were severely ill all had heart problems. He suddenly remembered and asked, "By the way, what about Tiu Hiep?" The disciple reported, Tiu Hiep seems tired after helping everyone, so he has fallen asleep. I have placed him to rest in a room." He thought of the scene where his disciples were carrying the young man to rest, and the disciples sighed that the young hero had tried his best. He then said that a body not trained in martial arts would surely get tired following us, and he spoke up, "By the way, we should visit to see how the young hero is doing." 9 Defeated replied, "Let me lead the way." The master of the house gently opened the door, and inside, Little Long was sleeping soundly, unaware of anything. Tang Shan did not enter, but quietly observed from outside. He suddenly pushed the door open and quickly walked to the bed, raising his hand towards the young man. His hand moved like lightning, coming down precisely to slap him across the face. It made him cry out in pain. Little Long woke up startled, not understanding what was happening, staring at him, and exclaimed, "Senior," while looking at him with great anger. Seeing his expression, he wondered why he suddenly got slapped by Tang Shan, leaving Little Long dumbfounded as he sat up, holding his cheek where he had just been slapped. Little Long said, "What is this?" He hugged his face, leaning against the wall, wondering what was happening. "Oh dear, it hurts too much." He quickly crawled over, raising his hand to say, "I'm sorry, I just intended to catch the bug crawling on your cheek." Little Long, with a blank face, asked, "What a bug?" Tang Shan awkwardly replied, "Did you hear what I said?" He looked through the crack in the door and said, "I just intended to stop by to check on the young hero a bit before resting." Suddenly, Tang Shan saw a bug and said, "You know." Suddenly, a bug flew and landed on his face. "Do you know that?" He raised his hand, his sharp gaze saying, "There are many types of poisonous insects on Hainan Island that I'm not aware of, so it can be quite dangerous. Thus, I unconsciously slapped it." Tang Shan showed the bug he had slapped on his hand and said, "Look at this, it's a big bug." Little Long stared at the bug in his hand, dumbfounded, when suddenly he exclaimed, "This." Little Long mumbled, "Wait, how did this bug get here?" He seemed to have discovered something. Little Long asked, "Senior, the patient may have many different symptoms, but all have abnormal signs, right?" Tang Shan replied, "That's right." He stated that the cause of the strange disease is spreading in this village. Little Long pointed at the bug in his hand and said, "It's caused by this bug." Tang Shan was surprised and exclaimed, "What? This is a type of bug belonging to the true foot family. It has a name like..." It usually sucks blood from the eyes or lips of sleeping people. This type is so agile and stealthy that it sucks blood even faster than mosquitoes. Hence, it's also called a vampire or assassin bug. Little Long wiped away the spot where the bug had landed and said, "This bug itself is not poisonous, but its belly is full of harmful parasites." He continued, "Thus, when bitten by it, people will get infected through its waste. Chagas disease, also known as Chagas disease, is the illness it causes, which is a dangerous type ranking 7th on the list of deadly species. The most for humans." Little Long said to the village chief, "By the way, do the dogs in the village have rapid breathing or symptoms similar to humans?" The village chief replied in panic, "That's right. Could it be because of this bug?" He sighed and replied, "Yes, it's likely for sure." The bewildered village chief wondered, "If so, can my daughter be saved?" Little Long answered, "If there is medicine, it can still be possible, but—" Tang Shan laughed heartily. He smugly asked 9 Defeated, "What do you think of how I look at people?" 9 Defeated laughed and replied, "Indeed, I have clearly seen the value of the young hero. You stepping in, not understanding what was going on, muttering why these people are like this." He spoke, "Young hero, please join our Sichuan family." Little Dragon was stunned and replied, "Yes." Dongshan confidently said, "What I mean is to join our Sichuan family." You look dumbfounded, muttering, "Why?" He said there is a type called ancient worm which is referred to as witchcraft or ancient poison. This type of worm is nurtured by the evil ones in Central Plains, Dongshan continued. Those wicked people. They make people swallow this worm periodically, causing pain or using it to control people at will. Little Dragon was astonished and replied, "Control people, that's really terrifying." Dongshan said, although it is indeed powerful, many people in the martial arts world have lost their lives because of that ancient poison. He said that sometimes people kill their own children and then commit suicide or betray their family and clan to become slaves to the evil ones. The village chief standing beside heard this and lamented tragically. "Oh my God, what a nightmare." Dongshan informed that for a long time people in the martial arts world have been trying to create an antidote for that ancient poison. An antidote that makes the ancient poison escape from the body or dissolve it. Little Dragon exclaimed in disbelief, "No way." Dongshan suddenly pulled something out of his coat and shouted, "Got it! If the martial arts world creates such an antidote, where will they do it?" He took out a large round pill and proudly said, "Of course it is our Sichuan family that has the antidote capable of dissolving a lump the size of a fist in the body. So what are those tiny microorganisms?" Dongshan presented the huge shiny pill and said, "This is the antidote. Just a little of this pill is enough." You gaped in awe. The antidote, Little Dragon muttered. The name of the drug to kill parasites sounds really powerful. Looking at the village chief with tears in his eyes, he said, "So don't worry, old master. Dongshan assured your granddaughter can be saved now." As a result, starting from the village chief's granddaughter, the villagers gradually recovered their health. The village chief hugged his granddaughter joyfully and exclaimed, "Oh my God, how lucky." The warm welcome from the villagers was an additional reward. Looking at the bright faces, it seemed that the information about the optimistic character of the female clan was true. Dongshan patted your shoulder and said, "If the young hero does not find out the cause, it would be difficult. So their benefactor must be me, but it is this young hero." The young people in the village chorused, "Thank you very much." Young hero Little Dragon shyly replied, "That's it." Everyone around shouted, "The young hero is the benefactor of our village. Although treated with the medicine of the Dong family, he has given all the credit back to us." Looking at me, everyone was grateful, looking at him joyfully as if it were their own business. It was really touching. The young people in the village surrounded Guang and tossed you into the air to celebrate. After a while, the village chief leaned close to Dongshan and said, "That was what you mentioned at the village gate." He wondered what that was about. The old man said that everyone is searching for the village where people have gone missing. Dongshan replied, "That is indeed the case, but why do you ask?" The village chief seemed worried and said, "I want to repay the kindness. So I have researched a bit and heard a strange story." Everyone fell silent to listen as he recounted, "In our village, there is a girl who married from another village. Her parents had a strange phenomenon a few years ago. People in the village gradually disappeared one by one." Dongshan was extremely alarmed after hearing this. He looked around and muttered, "There are clues now." Dongshan asked, "So, where is that place?" The village chief replied, "It is to the west. There is a small village. When people arrive, they only see desolation." Dongshan covered his nose with his hand and said, The corpse of the attendant beside said it seems to be that place. The host seemed to see something very terrifying and exclaimed, "What is this?" The corpses piled up, including bones. Dongshan said it sent chills down my spine, and there are also poisonous corpses. The toxins that arise after a corpse decomposes make the young lady shiver down her spine, warning not to let the hero see this scene. Little Long said, "I've seen everything." Suddenly, the young man with hair noticed something and wondered what was over there. Suddenly, sharp claws picked up the severed head of a snake and a bird with strange feathers. While swallowing the snake's head, the young lady murmured about the bird and then grabbed a stone in her hand, saying, "No, not that bird. I can't let the deceased be humiliated any further." The young lady angrily threw the stone at it, shouting, "Get out of here!" "Wait!" shouted Duong Sun as the stone flew past, startling the bird. It flapped its claws down to the ground, its eyes filled with murderous intent, ready to attack. He angrily shouted, "Not that damn thing!" He patted the shoulder of the young lady to calm her down, saying there was something wrong. The bird spread its large wings, flapping powerfully into the sky with a wave of murderous intent. Little Long was terrified at the sight. The corpses that were hit by the black smoke were melting. He murmured, "No way it's melting." A hand covered his mouth, and Duong Sun shouted loudly, "Everyone get away! That's the Tram-Do!" Everyone sat down in a circle. Duong Sun explained that when its wings spread wide, it could reach 5 good years with a beak that was bright copper-colored and sharp like a spear, its body covered in a deep purple feather coat. The 2 attendants listened seriously as he spoke. When angry, it spreads its wings, and everything around it turns black and dies, transforming into poison. Duong Sun continued. On its head, it wore a brilliant golden crown, exuding a majestic demeanor worthy of a king. "This type is called Tram or Tram-Do Little Long," exclaimed excitedly. "Was that one of the 10 great poisonous creatures?" He nodded, and Little Long's eyes sparkled with excitement as he said, "That's the one that ranks first among the 10 great poisons. It is hailed as the king of all animals, the Tram-Do, the king of the 10 great poisons." He murmured, "So terrifying, incredibly powerful poisonous insects and snakes on Earth. Compared to that, it really just looks adorable." Little Long was overjoyed to see the Tram-Do, saying that it was indeed a biological weapon flying everywhere. Duong Sun remarked that it seemed to be lured by a group of snakes. It flew here on its own. The 3 others whispered that the Tram-Do only eats the heads of the most poisonous snakes. He worriedly asked if that was an omen, and the man replied, "Definitely in this lifetime." It might not be easy to see the Tram-Do with your own eyes. It is so rare that no one has seen it for 100 years. Little Long marveled. Duong Sun wondered, "Why are you planning to catch it?" This made the crowd astonished. He laughed heartily. "Do you want to try to catch it, hero?" The young man replied, "I can, but if its poison is like that." Duong Sun just smiled at him. Then suddenly he said, "Kid, it seems you are very interested in the great poisonous creatures. If so, there is a way." Little Long was surprised and asked, "Is there really a way?" Duong Sun said, "If you cultivate the poison technique of the Duong family, your body will become immune to all poisons, able to resist even the poison of the Tram-Do." He added, "In this world, only the martial arts of the Duong family can stop that kind of poison." Duong Sun pointed to his face and said, "Ah, but what can we do?" "Because the Duong family does not teach the family's secret techniques to outsiders." He continued, "Even if I want to help the young hero as the family head, I cannot break the clan laws." Little Long eagerly shouted, "If the junior could become a member of the Duong family, could he learn? And if he truly reaches the state of being invulnerable, he could resist the poison of the emperor." Duong Sun confidently replied, "Of course. If the hero decides firmly now, I will not hesitate to teach him everything. And of course, the introduction ceremony will also be properly arranged to meet the remaining people." Who would believe his words? Only Little Long believed him, grinning slyly, saying, "But if the hero hesitates too long, I will have to think carefully." "Right." Young Long, with enthusiasm turning his face red decisively, said, "I agree to become a member of the Duong family, hoping to receive your guidance, esteemed senior, oh no, esteemed head of the family." Duong Sun laughed heartily well. Then he patted his shoulder and said, "From now on, you will forever be a member of the Duong family, the place of blood, and the lair of the Von Dung demon hidden steps beside the poison." Suddenly, someone called the head of the family sister-in-law and pointed to a book saying it was located inside the cave. Duongsun took it in hand, opened each page, and read the words written in blood. Indeed, it is the secret manual of the blood-handed poison master. Little Long exclaimed in surprise, written in blood. He put the secret manual away and said we should head back. Young Long wondered if he intended to go to Sichuan. Duongsun replied we must do so. We have obtained the inner Dan of Thango in the secret manual. Little Long remembered the animals he raised and asked if they could stop by the Taoist temple for a bit. I want to release some of my friends, he replied. Sure, I will also prepare your travel gear. Duongsun turned and said, then let's set off. Little Long kept looking back. Suddenly, he noticed something. Little Long pointed at the cave and said there is something over there. The short-haired guy wondered what he meant, and everyone bent down to look. The short-haired guy asked what this is, and everyone shouted, this is the feather of the emperor bird. Everyone looked towards Little Long. It was emitting a purple glow. Duongsun put on gloves and picked up the feather to examine it. He opened the box to hold it and said, consider this a congratulatory gift for you, becoming a member of the Duong family. Seems very interested in it. Little Long excitedly said, thank you, esteemed senior. Oh no, esteemed head of the family. Duongsun turned back and smiled, saying, everything is good, just that I don't really like this way of addressing. He said, how about after the brotherhood ceremony, we change the way of addressing to be more fitting? Young Long unexpectedly mumbled a ceremony, like the initiation ceremony. At the same time, at the Duong family in Sichuan, the injured general was being supported by the family members, saying, esteemed head of the family, Duong Botin. He had set off earlier and finally arrived. The old man shouted, hurry up, how is Nganyi? The subordinate supporting the general replied, yes, she is still alive. The old man said, hurry, go to Nganyi. The door to the room opened, and the general appeared, calling out loudly, Nganyi. The people beside the bed shouted esteemed head of the family, Duong matron, with worried expressions calling out to their father. The old man replied, daughter-in-law, I have brought the medicine back. The elder took out a pill and said, this is the inner pill of the Thanbongo family. She covered her mouth with her hand, trying to hold back her emotions, saying that they had succeeded. Everyone sat down waiting for the elder to give the medicine to Nganyi. Her complexion was very poor, and she was gasping for breath. Dongquin looked at her with pity and called out to Nganyi. The elder held the pill and said, we almost faced a great danger. Luckily, I rushed here in time. The lady said, father, quickly give her the medicine. The elder slowly fed the pill to Nganyi. A stream of green energy emanated from her body. Dongquin took her pulse, then he focused his internal energy. The lady looked at her beloved daughter with worry, murmuring, wake up soon, Nganyi. Tu Long, sitting behind with a dazed expression, said, I have heard that Trungwin is vast, but I never expected it to be this immense. From Hainan, we took a boat to Hongzhou after crossing Nam Nin. Ending a long journey of a month and a half, we finally arrived in Sichuan before the Dung family. The man laughed and said, this is the Dung family of Sichuan. The young hero exclaimed, is this really it? Before him was a vast Dung family estate. He said, this entire mountain belongs to the Dung family of Sichuan. That's why this mountain is called Dung Sun. Tu Long couldn't believe his eyes. Everyone in the Dung family rushed out loudly, welcoming their master back, which startled him, murmuring that all these people were from the Dung family of Sichuan. Oh my, how terrifying. Behind this group of men there was a girl in a red dress running up to welcome him back. Dung Sun was astonished to hear the two words. Father, your beloved daughter has woken up, she cried, rushing towards him. Tu Long was immediately captivated by Nganyi's beauty. Dung Sun joyfully called out, Nganyi, you're better now, right? She hugged him tightly and said, Father, I'm sorry. Nganyi, how is your health? He looked at her, murmuring, oh my, is this beauty real? In my past life, I also collaborated with many stars, but like this Tu Long looked at that beautiful face and said, this is truly the first time I have seen someone radiate such brilliance. He turned to say, I have someone I want to introduce to you. Dung Sun said, Tu Long, this is my daughter, Dung Nganyi. Tu Long's face stiffened as he continued. Ah, I remember what you said. I smell the fragrance of herbs. Nganyi listened to those words with confusion. Dung Sun patted her head and said, it's just wild herbs. This made Nganyi startled and blush. Both of them looked at each other in silence. Do you remember when you said, my daughter is a treasure of Trungween? Tulong retorted, no, those wild herbs are not it. He felt a bit embarrassed. Dung Nganyi, the only woman of the Dung family, had carried a burden of sorrow that few could understand since she was young. The two elders talked to each other. One said, her talent is still not very clear. The other said, isn't her appearance extraordinary enough to be called one of the three beauties of the martial world? How can she hide? Listening to those comments, the man in the hat said, as long as we have a nominal son-in-law, that's all that matters. The other said, I told you to take in more wives, but I don't understand why the master opposes it. Gun Yi endured the harsh words, murmuring, no mother-father is not wrong. Dung Nganyi wanted to prove her abilities to the elders in the family by perfecting her martial arts, even though she was not a man. She could still do many things for the family. There is a saying, desire leads to failure, impatience only leads to mistakes. That impatience had created a mental demon, and that mental demon had turned into an obstacle. After she woke up, thanks to the medicine and Dung Quin's help, everyone around was worried. Dung Funyan joyfully said, you have survived. Nganyi said, mother, what should I do? Tears streamed down her face as Nganyi cried, I'm sorry, mother, she thought to herself, so this is the end. I once wanted to be useful to the family. Nganyi looked at Dung Quin and said, I have lost all my internal energy. The elder held her hand and said, this little girl. Dung Quin smiled and said, are you feeling guilty for making your father and the Dung family suffer? You have reached the industrialization of the 100 poisons that you have always desired. Stop crying and cheer up. She wondered, what is the 100 poisons? Nganyi raised her hand and saw a faint blue light. The stream of energy radiated so strongly that she was astonished. Nganyi turned to ask, what is this master? Nganyi, before this, I wanted to tell you that the military path not only saved your life, but also helped you achieve the internal power of heavenly poison, surpassing even the white poison. It's about a mysterious young hero. Nganyi wondered, weeds. Everyone laughed, while Tulong felt embarrassed, mumbling about the 10 great poison killers that dared to be mentioned. The young lady of a great family is just a weed. Dung Sun stood behind, smiling triumphantly at his awkwardness. Tulong thought, you should reflect on your past, and awkwardly said, the master really knows how to joke. It's a great honor to meet you, miss. I am Nui Tulong. Tulong said, I heard you were ill, and now seeing you healthy like this is truly fortunate. Nganyi hesitated and replied, yes. Then she cheerfully said, it's a great honor to meet you, Nganyi. I am Dakhwa Dung Nganyi. Thank you for saving my life, young hero. I will never forget this kindness in my lifetime. The scene of Nganyi's introduction made Tulong captivated, mumbling, so beautiful. He then spoke up, what do you think? He was startled, mumbling, what is this? This is the sound transmission technique. A voice continued to transmit, even if it's just a weed, it's still beautiful. Do you want to try picking the bangan flower? Tulong felt shy after hearing that. The scene shifted to the bathroom, where he was soaking in hot water, relaxing, while the little Ngo Kung slept soundly in the basin. Tulong enjoyed it, saying, I'm going to die. He turned to look and saw a little Ngo Kung awake. He mumbled, normally you cling to me all day. Hot water isn't good for your body. Do you want to get in the tub for a while? As soon as he finished speaking, it immediately jumped in as if it understood his words. Looking at these adorable little ones, Tulong said, it's really strange. It seems to understand part of the words. According to Dung Sun's words, it seems to react to the killing intent. He saw the little ones looking at him smiling and said, staring at a naked body. That would make one feel embarrassed. Suddenly, they panicked and dove down into the tub to hide. He laughed, mumbling, these little ones are really... Tulong turned around and said, old man, you once said that the Ngo Kung are spiritual creatures. I must see what a spiritual creature is after watching. He suddenly realized something, remembering the look when he said, the bangan flower is really beautiful. Do you want to try picking one of Dung Sun's? He mumbled the old man's words, which kept echoing in his head, making it impossible for him to calm down. I must leave here quickly. The scene at the exit showed everyone sitting in the room, seemingly discussing something. Dung Sun picked up a teacup and said, so we will arrange everything accordingly. The room is a cultural and architectural chi in the central part of China, a type of room located in the east of the main house. In the architecture of the courtyard, a common style of house. If a person is in the guest room, they are a distinguished guest. Dongquan said, a young hero with such talent. He replied, yes, we thought we encountered a fortuitous opportunity, but that opportunity was not thanks to the help of the young hero, but rather the young hero Dongsun continued. The knowledge about poisonous creatures of this person is extraordinary. Not to mention, he even wrote about the Thak Venjung and even encountered legendary spiritual creatures like the Tramdu to the astonishment of Dung Funyun and Gun Yi. He said, I heard that the young hero even personally hatched the Than Bon Gokong. Dongquan laughed and said, I really didn't expect to overlook such a treasure. Dongsun replied, that's right, dear father. He called out to Gun Yi and she was startled, not understanding. Dongsun asked, I want to take the young hero as my son-in-law. What do you think? Gun Yi wondered if the person meant to replace the hero as a son-in-law. She said if it were a son-in-law, Gun Yi would shout out loud, causing the lady of the house to look worried. Then she bowed her head in silence, waiting for an answer, murmuring, now I have surpassed the white poison and entered the realm of heavenly poison. I want to prove that I can be of more help to the family, so now you speak up. You are also a member of the Nung family. I understand what father means when he says that. Gun Yi slammed her hand down, speaking loudly, but with tears in her eyes, she asked if that hero truly deserved her. I must verify it myself. After saying that, Gun Yi ran outside, and everyone inside looked a bit worried. Dongsun had a bad feeling and murmured, be careful, hero, watching the figure of his daughter, he said. No matter how beautiful the bangan flower is, it also carries sharp thorns. Gun Yi ran while murmuring, now I can aim for the heavenly poison body if I stop here. I will not be recognized by the elders in the family. I will thoroughly check his virtues slowly and clearly. After soaking too long, sat outside enjoying the breeze. He wondered what was going on. Tu Lung, with a gloomy face, said it seemed he had made a bad impression on the young lady of the great family. The girls from the Ngo family didn't understand what he was saying. Tu Long rubbed his chin and asked, what will your father do about this? Suddenly, from behind, Gun Yi appeared, calling out to the hero, startling him into shouting. Since she had just run over, she was panting. Tu Long wondered, oh, Miss Gun Yi. She said, excuse me a bit, hero. I'm in a bit of a hurry. Seeing his confused expression, Gun Yi asked if she could borrow his hand for a moment. Tu Long extended his hand, saying, yes, miss. Suddenly, he thought of something. His face turned red, saying, about that. Tu Lung, feeling awkward, said he didn't know what the young lady was up to, but perhaps it would be better to wait until they were closer, right? He stammered. Because we need to have a custom. And she wondered, what do you mean, hero? Gun Yi thought of something, her face immediately turning red, and she loudly exclaimed, no, that's not it. What are you talking about? His face was helpless as he murmured, that's not it. The romantic sunset in the afternoon, but these two people were not. Gun Yi sighed and said, it's not what you think. I just want to check your pulse. Perhaps because I suddenly asked you to give me your hand, you misunderstood. But Tu Lung, disappointed, forced a smile and said, so, that's it. It's because I didn't know. Gun Yi sat down and said, first of all, I want to apologize. I appeared too abruptly and acted rudely. She turned to him and said, you still look very young, not yet in your youth, but you seem to be a thoughtful person. So, I will explain what is happening. Tu Lung stammered, okay. After a while of listening to Gun Yi explain what he had heard, it felt like the content of a typical historical drama where, as the only direct descendant, she continuously had to endure cunning schemes from rival families. Therefore, to ensure the continuation of the family, the elders decided to select a capable son-in-law. But Tu Lung rested his chin on his hand and murmured, they even consider how their position in the family would change if they went there. Gun Yi said, so, I want to apologize first, but there's something I need to confirm with you. The girl said, even if everything doesn't go as desired. Gun Yi said, so, I want to apologize in advance, but there is something I need to confirm with you. The girl said that although everything may not go as desired, I certainly do not intend to treat you poorly, brother, as you are my benefactor. So, of course, we will treat you like a distinguished guest, said Gun Yi with a different intention. Oh, what if we are sworn brothers instead? She was surprised when Tu Lung reached out to her. He smiled and said, I understand what you mean. Feel free to express whatever you want. Ganyi remained silent, looking at him. Then she took Tu Long's pulse and said, "All right, let's begin." Around her, a stream of energy formed, astonishing him. Ganyi said that the martial arts of the Dung family are not something everyone can comprehend. Some people can accept poison into their bodies and grasp the unique skills of the Dung family. She continued, while others simply cannot do so at all. Ganyi based her knowledge on the highest tower, Van Ductien, Duckbuck, Duckten, poisons, and sleeping poison, saying that the skills of the Dung family require a person to gradually adapt to various poisons. As that person's internal strength gradually increases, she said they must be able to accept everything to reach the realm of mastery after finishing the pulse diagnosis for Tu Long. Ganyi said, "Fortunately, your body can learn the poison techniques, but..." She turned to say it is only 10 types of poison tolerance. This means that your body can only withstand 10 types of poison. For someone not from the Dung family, having 10 types of poison tolerance is already quite impressive. But Tu Long was dumbfounded when he heard her say that. Ganyi stood up and said, "Actually, if we consider overall strength, we can only see you as a first-class martial artist. That is the highest level that someone without any innate talent can achieve." She turned and bowed, saying, "I apologize, then I will take my leave." He stood up and replied, "Take care." Tu Long looked sad as he saw her off. Ganyi was not happy either. He mumbled, "I have 10 types of poison tolerance, huh?" Like a bolt from the blue, Tu Long exclaimed, "So that means I can't catch the tram deal." For a martial artist, this is a very serious issue. Slender Legs stepped out of the bathtub. Ganyi wrapped herself in a cloth and sighed, looking at her body, saying, "Since I absorbed the inner elixir of Thanban Gokung, why does my body keep emitting this strange fragrance? I even bathe several times a day." Ganyi Ten put on her clothes and wondered if it was because I spoke ungratefully to my benefactor that I was punished. The scene shifted to Tu Long's bedroom, where he was sound asleep, seemingly dreaming of something. Suddenly, Tu Long appeared somewhere. There were many cherry trees, and he suddenly heard someone crying, saying, "I am very grateful for your endless kindness. Miss Ganyi, thank you. Thank you, my benefactor," he mumbled. "Am I dreaming?" A girl said, "No. Perhaps you will feel like this is a dream." But it is not. Thanban Gokung knelt on the ground and said, "I only borrowed the appearance of this girl. She is the one who swallowed my inner elixir to avoid scaring you. I am the mother of those children." Thanban Gokung Tu Long wondered, Thanban Gokung. At your feet are several adorable little ones in the shape of startled little dragons, saying that they scare me. When did you all get here? Little Dragon looked at the children and muttered, "Are these little ones her children? Are they all girls?" You kneel down and ask, "But how did everyone appear in my dream?" She hesitated. The noble lady said that I was brutally murdered, leaving behind my children. This grudge of mine has reached the heavens, and my soul has remained in Yong, Inner Dan. She angrily said, while I utter curses, having to be beside the girl who absorbed my inner Dan. The opportunity to resolve this grudge has come, allowing me to appear in your dream. The noble lady gratefully said it was all thanks to you bringing my children along. My benefactor, after hearing her little dragon, replied, "I understand now. You muttered that in the end I was the one who revealed her location to others." With a worried expression, Little Dragon said, "I didn't mean to, but still, I am related to the death of the noble lady," looking at her face with a bit of pity. The noble lady said, "Dear benefactor, if it's not too much trouble, could you fulfill one of my wishes?" Little Dragon, holding a sleeping child, firmly said, "Of course. I will fulfill any wish of yours." She stroked her child's head and asked, "Can you take care of my child until they grow up?" You wondered, isn't it that the toad or centipede can live independently after molting twice from their mother's body? The noble lady said, "For lower creatures, perhaps so. But we are different." She comforted her children, saying, "Before my clan's children molt twice, they are very dependent on the energy from their mother's inner Dan. After that, they continue to develop by absorbing the vital energy of other beings." Little Dragon wondered, "Wait, Miss Ganyi has already absorbed the inner Dan, right? So, does that mean they will have to stay close to her?" She seriously said, "You need to understand our situation." "Dear benefactor," the noble lady asked earlier, "I mentioned cursing this girl. Is that right?" You broke out in a sweat and replied, "Yes," she said, "because of my inner Dan. The body of that girl is emitting a foul odor." Little Dragon exclaimed, "A foul odor." With a wicked expression, the noble lady said, "I will not allow any man to get close to this girl and make it impossible for her to have children." You frightened muttered. Oh my, she said, if you want to lift this curse, then let my child absorb the energy from the inner Dan, and you can also take this opportunity to win her heart. Little Dragon rested his chin in thought for a moment, then smiled and replied, I don't think that's very nice. I don't want to take advantage of the difficult situation of the lady. Ngunyi, the noble lady, admired and said, You truly are a respectable person. Dear benefactor, she asked, but if so, how do you plan to overcome this challenge? It seems that the girl is looking for a man with strong power, the noble lady said, and I cannot give you the inner Dan of the 10 great poison masters. My inner Dan has already been absorbed into that girl's body. Little Dragon muttered, the 10 great poison masters. You happily said, I have an idea. Can you trust me? She wondered what you meant. Little Dragon patted the head of the little golden one and said, Just leave this matter to me. I think it's just a successful SVK. The next day, after hearing Tulong recount that Ngunyi said the fragrance emanating from my body was due to the inner elixir of Than Ban Go. Why did you bring along her child? That's right, and if you keep these centipedes close to you every few days and let them absorb the energy from the inner elixir, the SVK fragrance will automatically disappear. She blushed and said, I feel a bit shy asking this question. But Ngunyi asked, Brother, tell me about this. Is it okay if I don't ask for anything in return? You can ask me for something as compensation. Tulong laughed and said, I can't bear to take advantage of your difficult situation. I don't want to be someone so shameless. She was surprised by the answer. Ngunyi lowered her head and remained silent for a moment before saying, All right. If that's the case, I can't just keep accepting your kindness without giving anything back. Ngunyi said seriously, I will seriously consider my father's words. Tulong, seeing you like this made me realize that there are things more important than talent or martial arts. Tulong shyly scratched his head and said, Well, I have been thinking about this too. She wondered, What are you thinking about? He shyly laughed and said, I have 10 types of poison in my body and can absorb 10 types of poison right. Ngunyi sighed and said, That's true. Tulong looked at the little ones and said, So, I have this idea. If I can only accept 10 types of poison, he laughed and asked, Then can I absorb the 10 poisons of the 10 great poison masters in Trung Nguyen? Ngunyi wondered, why use the 10 poisons of the 10 great poison masters? She blushed and murmured, So he wants to become the strongest person in this world for himself. Ngunyi felt shy, thinking, how could she be compared to Ngunyi, one of the beautiful flowers of Lumva? This was the first time a man had made such a bold confession to her. The sky seemed gloomy, but rays of sunlight still filtered through the thick clouds and shone down on the cool pavilion. Outside, 2 people were sitting on the steps discussing something. Hua-un looked a bit confused as she looked at Tulong, wondering about this. Young hero, do you know what you're talking about? He faced Hua-un's gaze, fell silent for a moment, then scratched his head and laughed foolishly, saying, I don't know. She was left speechless by this guy. Turning around to sit upright, placing her hands on her chest, Hua-un confided, That path will indeed be extremely difficult and challenging. It could take 15, 20, or even a whole lifetime to pursue. Tulong, sitting beside her, looked completely dumbfounded, hesitating and wondering if it was that serious. Suddenly, thinking of something, her entire face turned hot, wanting to smoke. She raised her hands to cover her face. Hua-un softly huffed. Feeling shy, then opened her hands to rub her cheeks to cool down. She regained her composure and implied, All right, young hero. Her entire face was burning hot, wanting to smoke. She raised her hands to cover her face, and Hua-un let out a soft hum, shyly opening her hands to rub her cheeks to cool down, regaining her composure, and implying, All right, young hero. Little Long heard that the young hero is only 15 years old. In 3 years, when the young hero comes of age and is old enough to hold a wedding, he sat there dazed, listening to Hua-un talk about the future in the shy tone of a young girl. In those 3 years, if the young hero succeeds, conquering one of the 10 great poisonous beasts will likely earn him absolute trust from everyone. So if the young hero succeeds, the chances of achieving the goal are very high. She tapped her 2 index fingers together, blushing and awkwardly talking about the wedding. Suddenly, Hua-un stood up and shouted loudly anyway. I will wholeheartedly support the young hero, making Little Long next to her panic and shrink away. After finishing her words, she didn't look back and ran off, leaving only a sentence. All right, I'm off. And you were still dazed in place, muttering a single word, huh? Then hurriedly called out to that hasty figure, "Miss Hoa-an, are you still leaning forward?" She turned her head back, startled, asking, "Is there something the young hero hasn't said?" "Over there." Little Long smiled innocently, patting the spot next to him, his whole being radiating the brilliance of 10 directions of Buddha's saying it was just about needing treatment. "Even if it's just for 1 more hour, miss, please try to stay before leaving." That statement left her frozen in place, showing signs of cracking into pieces. Hoa-an let out a helpless scream at his ignorance, her whole body stiffening as she clenched her fists. Taking steps back to her original position, her head felt like it was about to smoke red from embarrassment. Little Long thought she was afraid of the little worms on him and hurriedly reassured her not to worry. "Our little ones absolutely won't bite." Saying that, he turned to look at the little worms in his hand, calling, "Come on, my little darlings," and they perked up in response to Little Long's words. He translated their words, causing her next to him to jump in surprise. Not listening to Dad and wanting to talk to Mom,